You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Today, most Missouri professional sports teams want voters to decide on legal sports betting.
We not only have a chilly one, but also, too, rain on the way. We'll have the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
Also, world leaders meet in Glasgow, Scotland to discuss the climate crisis. All that and more coming up.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Thanks for joining us for the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. I'm Tanya Bach. A Webb City man is dead from a motorcycle crash. It happened near the intersection of Euclid and St. Louis Avenues in Joplin just after midnight Sunday. Police say 24-year-old Joseph Chapman was thrown from his bike when he hit a pedestrian island. A car then hit Chapman. He died at the scene. Joplin police released the name of an assault suspect who was shot and killed by police. Police identify the suspect as 41-year-old Carl Junction resident Joseph Endicott. The JPD says he was shot by officers responding to a call from a victim who says they were being attacked by a man with a weapon. Police have not said what led to the shooting. Endicott died. No officers were hurt. The officers involved have been placed on paid administrative leave. Missouri sports teams want voters to weigh in on whether to legalize sports betting in the state. Petitioners filed 9 ballot proposals on the issue this week. St. Louis Cardinals, St. Louis Blues, St. Louis City Soccer Club, and the Kansas City Royals are behind the push. Efforts to pass a law allowing sports betting have failed for years in Missouri's legislature, so the teams want to take the issue directly to voters. It's November 1st, so goodbye Halloween decorations and hello wreaths and mistletoe. All right, well, that might be a bit extreme, but the holiday season is getting underway for Freeman Hospital. The hospital yesterday announced the theme of the downtown Christmas parade. Parade goers and participants will be cruising to Christmas this year. Freeman officials say they're excited about the floats they'll see based on this year's theme.
In the float. So people will have a lot of different interpretations for cruising to Christmas. I bet we'll see some old cars. I bet we'll see some really creative floats. So we just invite everybody to unleash their creativity.
You can register for a float online. We'll have the link in the story on our website, KOAMnewsnow.com. Salvation Army's Red Kettle campaign is underway. The bell ringers are a ubiquitous sign of the holidays as they station outside the stores, raising money for the work the Army does throughout the year.
People tell us thank you for what we do, but I always look at it, we can't do it without what the public does for us, which enables us to do what we can't do.
Salvation Army's looking for volunteers to ring the bells at the Kettle locations. You can find registration information on our website, KOAMnewsnow.com. Today marks the finale of this year's Day of the Dead celebrations. It really took flight. The Guatemalan community of Santiago, SEQUOIAS.
That's right. I might show up in Santiago.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Well, they commemorated its traditional Day of the Dead celebration with giant kites filling the skies. Handmade out of paper, 20-meter kites with striking designs took months to complete. Relatives tie messages to the kites to let passed away loved ones know they are missed and help guide spirits on their journey.
Keep going. I'll go find that calavera.
The tradition of the flying kites outside cemeteries in Guatemala goes back over a century. Due to COVID-19 restrictions this year, 8 of the giant kites were raised on the soccer field at the municipal stadium. Visitors were granted access for a limited amount of time. Aw. There you go, Michael.
Oh, I got it. Here, hang on, Dylan. That's my fault. Nah, it's cool. We can do this. It's live television.
That's a lot of work that goes into these kites.
That's why it's fun. It's live TV. There's our calavera. That's the one we popped up yesterday, right there.
Where did you find this one?
That's actually a homemade one. That one right there. That's homemade by somebody right here in the 4 states. Yeah. So you know, they got from Santiago, Chile to the 4 states right there. Pretty cool. Out of respect. All right, let's rock and roll here and get to our 4-state weather conditions, because this is a cold one, and as evident, it's living proof right there, that's a live shot as the car goes by. Because with the cloud cover, it's going to be hard pressed to get any sunshine. Only got up to 45 at Joplin Regional Airport yesterday. Couldn't even come close to the old 50-degree mark. And we've got a busy 7th and Range line. Tell you what, everybody is out and about here at 5 minutes after the 7 o'clock hour. Daily high this time of year, 64 degrees. Not going to see that until we get to the weekend. It's going to be a chilly one up until then. We've actually have a wind chill in effect right now, as it only feels like it's 37 degrees in Joplin. Now, these are actual temperatures ranging anywhere from about 37 to 41. And this right here, reflectivity off the sweeping radar. We picked up a little light rain, far western edge there of southeast Kansas. But on top of the cloud cover, we're going to focus on what develops out here in central Kansas, because that's what's going to make its way toward us here later this morning and into the afternoon hours. Cold temperatures with a jet stream grabbing everything out of Canada, sweeps it right through us right there, and really makes it cool all the way from just about us to the East Coast. That's where they've got frost advisories and freeze warnings lasting too. We've just escaped them. If you go out just to the east of our counties toward Springfield, that's where the frost advisories actually begin. Our weather trend for today going to be in the high 40s. So let's talk more importantly about the rain. High 40s, not bad, because if we were to get close to that 32-degree mark and have this mess roll in, we'd be talking about something completely different right now. Not a whole lot of heavy rain, but it's just going to be sustained, and because it's going to be so cool, it's going to be one of those where if you're out and about in it, yeah, it is going to be that chilly rain, that is for sure. As we dip into Wednesday morning, finally get a break from it. But one thing we won't get a break from, check this out. Whoo! We're going to get our own frost advisories and freeze warnings there by the time we get to the weekend. Speaking of the weekend, at least it does provide us with a little sunshine and temperatures getting back into the 60s.
All right, up next. Today, the CDC decides whether or not to approve COVID vaccinations for young children. And later, scientists come up with some big ideas to save the biggest trees on the planet. You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. The FDA gives emergency use authorization to the first COVID-19 vaccine for younger children. Now it's up to the CDC to decide whether to recommend the vaccine for this age group. It'll be discussed in a meeting today. Some parents have had questions about why the dosing size for the vaccine is based on a child's age and not their weight. Mandy Gaither explains.
If recommended by the CDC, Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine would be the first cleared for use in children ages 5 to 11 in the U.S. The vaccine would be administered in 2 doses given 21 days apart, but each dose would just be a third of the size of the one given to people 12 and older.
Vaccines are not administered based on weight like other therapeutics are.
So why not? Public health physician Dr. Chris Purnell says the dosage size varies depending on the child's immune system.
Vaccines really are based on the developmental stage or age of the immune system in a younger person. That's why you see the differences in the cutoffs at the ages.
Trials have shown the 2 smaller doses of Pfizer's vaccine generated just as strong immune response in children as the larger doses given to people over 12. Purnell says parents of young children shouldn't worry about the size of the doses.
So a parent who has an 11-year-old, regardless of size, your 11-year-old should receive the authorized dose for that stated age.
Pfizer says there's also potential to lower the dose of its COVID-19 vaccine for children ages 12 to 15 in the future. But right now, the company says their key goal is to provide protection with a safe and effective vaccine. For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Pfizer has packaged separate vials of the vaccine for kids 5 to 11, which have orange labels. Purple labels are being used for vaccines for people ages 12 and older. A possible treatment for cold and flu symptoms, plus a look at how much time U.S. teens and tweens are spending on their devices. Elise Preston has a look at some of the day's top health stories.
Screen time among American adolescents skyrocketed during the pandemic. A study in JAMA Pediatrics found the average daily total doubled from under 4 hours before the pandemic to nearly 8 hours during the pandemic. The study did not include school-related screen time. The CDC estimates about half of adult COVID survivors were unvaccinated as of August. The agency recommends even previously infected people get the shots, citing a modest but significant increase in protection against infection. And taking a zinc supplement might help curb symptoms of respiratory tract infections, such as coughing and congestion. Researchers in Australia say studies showed symptoms also seem to clear up sooner with the use of certain zinc supplements compared to placebo. Those are some of today's top health stories. Elise Preston, CBS News, New York.
Well, New Zealand has spoken and selected its 2021 Bird of the Year. But the winner of the annual competition this time isn't a bird at all. Instead, voters selected the country's only land mammal, the Pekapeka tuarua, also known as the long-tailed bat. This is the first time the bat, or indeed any non-bird, has been part of the competition, which is organized by New Zealand's Forest and Bird Conservation Charity. The group says the award-winning bat was included in the competition to raise awareness and support for the species.
Still having trouble reconciling this. It's not a bird.
No, it's a mammal.
Next thing you know, are you going to tell me that the long-tailed bat won New Zealand's Fish of the Year? I mean, where do we stop, Tanya? Where do we stop?
So apparently if it flies, it can be a bird.
There's flying fish too.
Ooh, well.
Let me tell you a story.
Can it be an amphibian as well?
Let's do Uncle Michael's story time. Get pulled over by an Oklahoma State trooper. Okay? May have been going a mile or two faster than the posted limit. I admitted it to him. I said, yeah, you know, maybe you let me go with the warning this time, right?
Okay.
Right? He goes, if I let you go with the warning, you tell me where it stops, son. You tell me. Does it stop at 1 over? Does it stop at 2 over? Does it stop at 3 over? Where does it stop, son? Is what he kept yelling at me.
Wow.
This is what I feel like we've done with Bird of the Year.
What were you doing to make him yell at you, Michael?
I don't know, it's great though, because you know what? His daughter actually went to Fort Scott Community College and played softball up there. We ended up having a great conversation on the side of the highway. All said and done, and he used to stop at Bob's Grill and get breakfast.
And he still gave you that
Still gave me the ticket.
Yes.
Still got the ticket.
No
Don't
warning
speed.
for you.
Word of the wise, don't speed, folks. The moral of Uncle Michael's story, don't speed. How about that? 40 degrees is where we stand in Joplin right now. Everybody out there going exact speed limit. That is wonderful, and that's what I love to see. Just heeding my advice, I guess. Anywhere from about 41 to 37. So it is abnormally cool for this time of year. And it's thanks in part to number 1, northeast breeze, number 2, heavy cloud cover. We haven't seen any sunshine. And it's created a wind chill that has dropped us as low as 32 degrees. Neosho, Cassville, Mount Vernon, that's what it's going to feel like out right at the freezing point when you walk out the door. Have seen just a little light rain, western portion of southeast Kansas. There's our clouds, and here's what we'll really pay attention to for the rest of the morning. It's beginning to develop right now in central Kansas and eventually head our way. Now, it's going to take a little bit. This thing's in no hurry. And even though we see it snow right here on the east side of the Rockies, we're not going to get that cold. We do have the cold Canadian air, whips right through us, and what that does, it creates frost advisories and freeze warnings that start just to the east of our counties. As a matter of fact, you can take it from Springfield, go east of the Mississippi, and these things last all the way to the Atlantic coast, so pretty impressive there in scope and nature. And eventually, we're going to have our own frost advisories and freeze warnings by the end of the week, because when we get to the 7-day forecast, you're going to notice overnight lows that get very, very close to freezing. A weather trend for today that only puts us in the high 40s, and then as the rain begins to develop out to the west, carries us through Tuesday afternoon, evening, and nighttime into early Wednesday before it finally dives off down to the south. Even when it does, not much of a warm-up, a little bit of one. But look at our overnight lows between Wednesday and Thursday into Friday. That's when those watches and advisories will begin to pop up. We'll be back with more KOM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this. As world leaders begin tough talks on climate change, many are downplaying expectations, and at least one major player pushing for extensions to net zero pledge this Story looks at whether these world leaders are confronting the planet's critical global challenges.
World leaders are bumping wrists and rubbing shoulders in the Scottish city of Glasgow. But success here will mean difficult and painful compromise if they're to agree a deal to curb global greenhouse gas emissions. The host, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, opened the COP26 climate summit with a stark message. There's no time to lose.
It's 1 minute to midnight on that doomsday clock, and we need to act now. If we don't get serious about climate change today, it will be too late for our children to do so tomorrow.
The nations represented here have been given an ultimatum. Agree and execute concrete measures to stop global temperatures rising more than 1.5 degrees Celsius or face grave consequences.
Enough of killing ourselves with carbon. Enough of treating nature like a toilet. Enough of burning and drilling and mining our way deeper. We are digging our own graves.
After years of failing to tackle global warming, climate campaigners calling for change in Glasgow are angry and sceptical. Some asking whether the promises made here will be hot air. US President Joe Biden pledged America, one of the world's biggest carbon emitters, would lead the way.
We'll demonstrate to the world the United States is not only back at the table, but hopefully leading by the power of our example. That's why my administration is working overtime to show that our climate commitment is action, not words.
This is the moment of truth, but expectations are low and some key global figures are absent. The president of China, the world's biggest carbon emitter, sent only a written statement saying, quote, his country would rein in the irrational development of energy-intensive and high-emission projects.
By 2070, India will achieve the target of net zero.
A sobering wake-up call came from the Indian Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, who set 2070 as India's target to reach zero carbon emissions. That's decades later than other polluters, pointing to how difficult the process would be for developing nations. The first full day closed with a royal reception. The Queen, seen here at home in Windsor, didn't attend on instruction from her doctors sending this video message.
I, for one, hope that this conference will be one of those rare occasions where everyone will have the chance to rise above the politics of the moment and achieve true statesmanship.
It's billed as the last big chance to address the climate crisis. Whether leaders will meet the challenge, though, is yet to be seen.
I see all those world leaders talking about very important things, but yet for some reason when the Queen talks, it resonates. It reminds me of my grandmother, and I just caught myself looking up going, yes, Grandma, I'll do whatever you tell me to do. We'll be back with this morning's four-state hero right after this.
It's time to honor today's four-state hero, Sergeant Arthur Simpson from Jasper County. He served 42 months during World War II in the Pacific Theater. We thank you for your service, Arthur Simpson, this morning's four-state hero. America's giant sequoia trees, the largest trees on the planet, are being threatened by droughts and wildfires. And now researchers are working to ensure the tree's future before it's too late. Anthony Pura joined scientists on an environmental restoration project that was years in the making.
Sierra Nevada mountains, scientists are on a mission to restore the area's past for the future. Unrecognizable in their small size, these tiny trees are young giant sequoias. Jim Clark is with Archangel Ancient Tree Archive, a group working to preserve the ancient trees.
When you have dry mountainsides with dry, dead standing timber, it's a tragedy waiting to happen.
They are planting 150 saplings on privately owned land in the mountain community of Sequoia Crest. A wildfire ripped through the region last year, scorching the landscape and killing many large sequoias.
The one thing that we all agree on is that this area needs help to regenerate.
But lost with each tree our future cones and seeds.
That's why we're here, is to help assist the trees that can no longer do what they have naturally done.
These 2-foot-tall trees were cloned from a 225-foot-tall sequoia called the waterfall tree. Researchers collected clippings from that tree 7 years ago before it was lost in a wildfire last year. The Archangel team nurtured the cloned saplings in a Michigan lab until they were ready to be planted in the California mountains. Scientists say the trees will have an undeniable environmental benefit.
They sequester carbon dioxide, and the bigger the tree, the more carbon is sequestered.
Saying it's important sequoias continue to survive and thrive.
That's why we're planting them, for your grandchildren and your grandchildren's grandchildren.
We're hoping that in years to come there will be a legacy left for future generations.
A legacy that will strengthen and grow with time. Anthony Pura, CBS News, Sequoia Crest, California.
Researchers are logging the trees they planted on a GPS coordinate so they can be monitored over time. Another half hour of news and weather is just ahead. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. One dessert shop finds the supply chain issues not so sweet. And a classic concert from The Doors opens on the big screen. You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. We'll be right back.
At Denver, 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. It's currently 7:31. Let's take a look at today's top stories. Of course, a number of our area counties and municipalities have issues on today's ballot. You can find a breakdown of those issues on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Polls open at 7 a.m. tomorrow, so please get out and vote. Excuse me, the voting is today. I read that wrong burgundy style. Surgery professor at Ohio State University says the amount of sedative administered to an Oklahoma inmate during his execution is insane. Medical experts say it's unclear why an Oklahoma inmate began convulsing and vomiting after the first of 3 drugs used to execute him was administered, but they all agree the dosage was massive compared to what's standard in surgeries. Jonathan Groner is a surgery professor at Ohio State University's medical school and a lethal injection expert. He calls the 500 milligrams of the sedative midazolam administered to John Grant insane. He says there's no data to measure the impact of a dose that size. Oklahoma Department of Corrections says the execution was carried out in accordance with the agency's protocols. Arkansas is among other states that use that dose of the same drug in executions. Oklahoma's Pardon and Parole Board recommends Governor Kevin Stitt spare the life of death row inmate Julius Jones. The board yesterday voted 3-1 to recommend clemency for Jones and that his sentence be commuted to life in prison with the possibility of parole. The 41-year-old Jones has always maintained his innocence in the 1999 shooting death of Edmond businessman Paul Howell. Jones testified via video link from the state penitentiary in McAllister that he was with his family the night of the killing. Several members of the panel agreed they had doubts about the evidence that led to Jones's conviction. 2 weeks after a newspaper discovered a security flaw on a Missouri state website, Governor Mike Parson's administration hired a company that performs a data breach and credit monitoring services. The state signed a contract with Identity Theft Guard Solutions. The pricing sheet shows it would cost taxpayers about $4.5 million to notify the teachers of the potential breach and provide them with credit monitoring. St. Louis Post-Dispatch discovered the flaw that potentially exposed the Social Security numbers of an estimated 100,000 Missouri teachers. Governor Parson ordered the Missouri State Highway Patrol to investigate the journalist who uncovered the flaw. An Oklahoma deputy is recovering after being shot during a domestic violence call on Friday. But according to the Pottawatomie County Sheriff, Deputy Gary Knowles is more worried about his fellow officers than himself. Andy Weber has the latest.
wanting to know how everybody is and making sure everybody's okay. He's concerned about everybody else.
Deputy Knowles thinking about others while still hospitalized. The deputy was shot 7 times when responding to a domestic call at a home on Austin Drive in Pott County. What followed was a nearly 10-hour search for Braden Chester, the man who allegedly opened fire on Knowles. Chester and his wife were found dead behind and inside their home around 5 p.m. on Friday. OSBI now working to figure out what exactly happened.
We have certain tools that we have for our crime scene agents that are able to document the scene, take measurements, do all of those kinds of things. It's a very tedious and very detailed operation.
The sheriff thankful to other agencies that came to help when Knowles was hit.
They came running instantly, was right there with them when everything went down, had multiple shots fired at them, estimated roughly 40 to 50 rounds.
Booth says support has poured in from friends, family, even from departments across Oklahoma.
For us, something like this, it gives everybody that extra boost and comfort and helps them to continue to believe in what we're doing.
When Deputy Knowles is just discharged from the medical center, he'll have to be in a wheelchair during his recovery. Oklahoma City Company has already donated all the supplies that will be needed to build a ramp. Parrot captured by a CCTV camera in Brazil. Scientific name of the bird is Amazona estiva, but it's commonly known as the turquoise front parrot. I love this. The blue-fronted parrot and the blue-fronted Amazon peekaboo. The bird is one of the most commonly domesticated birds coming from South America. Hey, this could be South America's bird of the year, and it's actually a bird.
Yeah, it's actually a bird. It's a tetrachromat, as a matter of fact.
How fun.
That's pretty cool. Especially since we've got and I didn't know the story was coming, we got the tower cam up here. Sometimes we make fun, like when a bird would fly through or anything like that. That'd be pretty cool if we had
just a big bug.
something would actually perch there and have a little fun with us. A little peekaboo. That's great.
Such a pretty bird, too.
No, that's cool.
I could just watch that.
Birds are pretty amazing. All right, live look outside of Television City. Sans birds. Not sans cloud cover, that's for sure. Overcast skies for our Tuesday morning, sitting at 40 degrees right now, and we've got a wind chill in effect. Only feels like it's 37. Temperatures ranging anywhere from 34s, where we've seen Iola dip down to, and a whole bunch of 41s. We've yet to see anybody even get up to 42 degrees right now. Wind tracker as it moves in from the northeast, providing us with a wind chill that has dropped us as low as 32 degrees throughout portions of southwest Missouri. A Skywatch storm tracker with a little light rain on our far western edge of southeast Kansas. This is the one that we'll pay attention to because it's going to sweep through here later on today and provide us with a good dose of rain on our Election Tuesday. Here's what Future Track has for us, left-hand side of your screen. As it begins to develop in central Kansas and moves through all throughout our afternoon, evening, nighttime, and early Wednesday hours before it finally dissipates about mid-Wednesday morning. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this. Time now to turn our attention to the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll. I apologize for not having Facebook up. I was actually more concerned with what's moving in from central Kansas. I'm going to focus on that. But anyway, our morning Insta poll is about politicians and punishment because over the weekend, authorities arrested Kansas State Representative Aaron Coleman on a domestic battery charge. According to his attorney, Coleman plans to plead not guilty. But 3 of Coleman's family members appeared at a hearing, and all of them said they would feel unsafe having contact with him. Coleman, no stranger to controversy. He's faced disciplinary actions in the past over threatening online posts and posting revenge porn. At least one of Coleman's colleagues has called for his resignation. Our question for you this morning, do politicians receive adequate punishments for their crimes? Right now, 97% of you do not believe that they do. Thought it was going to magically pop up there. Sometimes you get lucky on live television. Anyway, 97% of you say no, you do not believe politicians receive adequate punishments for their crimes. You can make your voice heard each and every morning. Connect to us via Facebook. Go straight to the poll, KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. The latest Marvel movie hits theaters this weekend. Features a group of heroes who started long before Iron Man, Captain America, and the rest. David Daniel with a look at Eternals.
We have helped them progress. Eternals have nurtured humanity for 7,000 years.
We have never interfered until now.
Oscar-winning director Chloe Zhao went from indie films to the MCU.
I had to pitch for it, and we both have to look at each other and go, there's something about what you're offering we really want. And that's when I have the project.
Ajak, played by Salma Hayek, leads the team.
I had given up on the hope of Marvel noticing that I existed, and it was just amazing.
The diverse cast includes Lauren Ridloff as the MCU's first deaf superhero.
I love that my deafness is not seen as, a driving point to a story. It's just, it's just an asset.
And Kumail Nanjiani as its first South Asian superhero.
I wanted him to be the opposite of most of the opportunities that I'd gotten and most of the opportunities that brown men have gotten in Hollywood, So usually either we play terrorists, I wanted him to be full of joy, the opposite of that, or we're nerds and I wanted him to be cool, or we're weak and I wanted him to be strong. So I just sort of was like, what is something that I haven't gotten to do that we don't usually get to do? Let's be the opposite of all that.
Between the heroics, we see the friendships, which the cast formed off-screen as well, most of them.
I don't think I was really expecting to come out of this with so many incredible friendships. I mean, I really got to know everyone so well.
Yeah, I made no friends on this movie.
Excuse me?
Apart from you. We became friends.
Yeah,
we became friends.
Okay.
We've loved these people since the day we arrived. When you love something, you protect it.
In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
Be back with a little KOM morning news on Fox 14 Consumer Watch right after this.
The owners of an Arizona dessert shop is now finding it so hard to find supplies. Due to the supply chain situation, they had to travel more than 5 hours to New Mexico to obtain the ingredients they needed. Jason Berry has more on their story.
There you go.
The Paletta Bar near ASU in Tempe makes an assortment of specialty popsicles, shakes, and sweets. Co-owner Brandon Crespin wondered recently if they'd have to close down when a shipment of ingredients never arrived and their supplier wasn't much help.
He said, well, we forgot to let you know that you guys aren't going to get anything. We don't know when. We don't have an ETA. We don't have drivers. Our warehouse, there's no workers. He's like, we literally don't have the manpower to get you guys anything.
Small businesses like this one are all feeling the pain of a nationwide supply chain shortage that's limiting the goods and services they can provide customers. But instead of caving to the crisis, Crespin got creative and found the unique chocolate and creams they use for their desserts was available in New Mexico. So the savvy business owner asked his mother to drive back and forth from Albuquerque to bring him what he needed so he could keep making popsicles.
She was completely okay with it, knowing that her son needed help with his store, so she stepped in and saved us, because if not, all we would have had to sell was a couple water-based palettas and a couple drinks. Everything else, we wouldn't have had any supplies for it.
Rick Murray with the Arizona Small Business Association says more and more owners are having to think outside the box to keep their businesses going. We asked him what advice he has for consumers confronted with the reality that their favorite grocery store, restaurant, or retail shop may not have what they need.
And if you need to buy something today, or you need it in a couple of weeks, buy it today. Don't wait, because you're going to be disappointed if you need something immediately. This is our normal for now. We're short truck drivers. Even if the stuff is at the port, we can't get it out of the ports to some of the distribution centers.
The supplies picked up in New Mexico will keep that popsicle shop going for a couple more weeks. After that, they may have to make another delivery run. The supply chain shortage could last well into February or March of next year. We'll be right back with more after this, but first, let's take a look at the market prices before the opening bell.
A concert film featuring the classic rock band The Doors is headed to theaters this week. Rick Damigella talked with the band's Robbie Krieger and John Densmore. I did not even know that they were back on speaking terms, but evidently Damigella got them together and talked to them about the film.
On July 5th, 1968, The Doors performed at the Hollywood Bowl, the concert captured on film. The Doors Live at the Bowl 68 Special Edition features remastered visuals and Dolby Atmos audio.
Right beside the ocean on a moonlight drive. I'm thinking that the reason we're talking about all this 50 years later is your fault, Robbie. You wrote Light My Fire, and it's been downhill ever since.
The special presentation of the movie features a newly filmed conversation with Doors drummer John Densmore and guitarist Robbie Krieger, along with new performances from the duo.
We had a really good time playing those songs again.
Yeah, we had Jason Schiff that sang and played bass. And his dad played on LA Woman. He was the bass player on LA Woman. So Jason is cool. He was the singer for Chicago for the last 20 years or so.
And his dad, Jerry Schiff, was the bass player for Elvis.
In Hollywood, I'm Rick Damigella.
Okay, that's pretty cool right there. That comment that I made beforehand, Densmore and Krieger didn't speak for years after Morrison died because Densmore was against selling any of the rights to any of Morrison's music to be used for commercial purposes. And I did not know that they had reconciled. And so that's great to see. That looks like a really cool flick right there. 40 degrees is where we stand right now over 7th and Rangeline. Temperatures have not moved. We've really been between 37 and 41 all morning long. And the cloud cover and the little northeast breeze has provided us with a wind chill that's dropped as low as some 32s throughout southwest Missouri and Mount Vernon, Cassville, and Neosho. Skywatch storm tracker with a little light rain hanging off on the eastern edge of southeast Kansas. Still paying attention to what's formulating there in the central portion as the jet stream grabs cold Canadian air, whips it right through us all the way to the east coast. And that is why anything from a frost advisory indicated in the darker purple and freeze warnings there in the turquoise. They stretch really from about Springfield all the way to the Atlantic Ocean. We just stayed just on the west portion of it. Now, we are going to get ours here later in the week, that is for sure. Weather trend for our Tuesday going to put us just up into the high 40s. So not much of a warm up. And then beginning later this morning, here comes the rain as it formulates out in central Kansas, works its way through. Then we get a little northerly push for Tuesday night, and you'll notice it lasts all the way into early Wednesday morning before it finally dies off. Now, we're not going to see any wintry mix. We're not going to have any thunder, lightning. We're not going to have any flood concerns, nothing of that nature. And it's a good thing we're getting the rain out of the way now, because it'd be a little bit different tune if we got it when those numbers popped up. And that's when we'll have our frost advisories and freeze warnings for later this week. We'll be back, wrap up this edition of the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Here's what's happening today. Prosecutors in New York say millionaire real estate tycoon Robert Durst has been indicted on a second-degree murder charge for the death of his first wife, Kathy Durst. She disappeared nearly 4 decades ago and her body has never been found. The 78-year-old Durst recently was sentenced to life in prison in California for killing a friend. Voters head to the polls in Virginia to decide a hotly contested race for governor. It pits former Democratic Governor Terry McAuliffe against Republican Glenn Youngkin. Polls put the candidates in a dead heat. Virginia's Republicans have not won a statewide race since 2009. President Biden won Virginia by 10 percentage points last year. Many campgrounds in the South and Southwest are quickly becoming booked solid as Canadians prepare to travel to warmer climates for the winter. The Biden administration recently signaled the green light for vaccinated people to enter the U.S. for non-essential travel. Let's check in with Michael with a final look at your camping forecast.
I just love how we just picked on the Canadians right there. That was great. It's like, here come the Canadians. Weather trend for today, highs in the high 40s. It's going to be a chilly one, and later on it's going to be a wet one. Rain begins later on this afternoon. Works in from the west and carries us mainly in the south and western portions of the 4 states all the way in to Wednesday morning. Not everybody is going to end up getting some shots of rain, but even if you don't, I'd bundle up because we're not going to see mid-50s and sunshine until we get to Friday.
Well, Google...
Yeah, Canadians. Thought it was warm, huh?
Yeah. Google's paying tribute to the late Native American artist Weewa. Monday's Google Doodle on its homepage comes at the beginning of Native American Heritage Month in the U.S. Weewa was revered as a cultural leader and a Zuni tribe mediator. The artist was also a Famana, which in the Zuni tribe is a third gender, neither strictly male nor female. Weewa was born around 1849 in what is now the state of New Mexico. The artist also traveled to Washington, D.C. in an effort to establish a cultural exchange.
All right, thank you so much for letting us put the good in your morning. We'll be back with more news and weather when we see you at noon.
Have a great morning and an even better day.